Wahine ma, maranga mai ki a kaha. Wahine ma, maranga mai ki a kaha.
Tēnā koutou katoa, e wahine mā, e rangatira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. It's absolutely wonderful to be here, and I confirm everything that the other speakers have said. Standing here looking out at this group of women is truly awesome, and I'm really privileged to be here to talk to you today. So, my name is Liz MacPherson. I am the Chief Executive of Statistics New Zealand and Government Statistician. I joined the public service almost 30 years ago now, in 1989. I was obviously about 13 at the time. And at the time I joined the public service, there were 3 women CEs out of the 47 CEs that were being counted at that time. So around 6%, or I'm a government statistician, so 6.38%. And as we heard earlier, we're now in a situation where I am one of 11 out of 29, which is pretty extraordinary, but reminding ourselves that 60% of the public service are women. That's compared with 47, but 60%, so there's still a way to go. And one of the things I want to do today is talk to you about maximising your potential, growing your aspirations, and using something of my own experience to help inspire you, hopefully. So I am the Chief Executive of Statistics New Zealand, and one of the things that happened to me, I've had a jungle gym style career, like the Minister said. So I've worked Department of Labour, Ministry of Education, Department of Labour again, MED and MB, actually in that combination, if you consider now that MB contains Labour and MED for 20 years. And policy, operations, research and evaluation, governance, corporate roles, many of them. So a whole range of jungle gym type experiences. When I got the role of government statistician, one of my colleagues at MB at the time sent me an email. One of the first emails I got said, "Congratulations, you're not only the head of statistics, you are a statistic." Being the first woman government statistician, and there are actually a few other people in the room who are the first woman in their role, like Naomi, for example. But I didn't fully appreciate what it meant to be the first woman government statistician until I went to Statistics New Zealand and, if it works, press firmly it says, there you go, was confronted with these guys on the wall of the actual reception to the boardroom. Now all these men made a wonderful contribution, but I really hadn't thought terribly much about what it meant to be the first woman government statistician. And as I say at the beginning of my presentation on the cover sheet, started me thinking about what my legacy was going to be. I want to be more than a statistic, and you should too. So what does that mean for me? The other thing that reminded me of this was very shortly after I had started with Statistics New Zealand, we were celebrating the 120th anniversary of women's suffrage in New Zealand. It's only a couple of weeks later. And Statistics New Zealand and the Ministry of Women, it was Women Affairs at the time, had a joint product put together, which is this infographic. It's a wonderful infographic to celebrate the 120 years of women's suffrage. And I feature on this under the firsts, female firsts. I'm on this as the first woman government statistician, which was quite an extraordinary privilege. But you really do know that you are a statistic when your daughter comes home and says, "Guess what, Mum? You were in my scholarship history exam." My husband made some comments about historical other things, and I'll leave that to one side. So I'm very proud to be the first woman government statistician. I'm also very proud to be leading an organisation where the proportion of women in senior leadership roles, that is tiers 2 and 3, are significantly higher than the proportion of women in the organisation as a whole. So 61% in those tiers compared with 54% of women employees. And the reason I mention this is I'm proud of it, but also because it ties in with this point here about women's suffrage. This has been a long time in the making, and for it to happen, as with women getting the vote, the action had to be taken by men to start that. So we had men in roles across Statistics New Zealand who started doing things that recognised flexible working practices, women on appointment panels, competency-based rather than time-served appointment, recognising different forms of experience. That all happened because men decided to do that. And then we started to see women role models, and it built from there. So these things do work, but they rely on the people who are in leadership roles to make them happen. So for you who are currently in roles, if we want to see more women leaders, if we want to see more leaders from diverse backgrounds, it's incumbent on us to make it happen. We can do it. Okay, so I now want to just focus a little bit on my own career and some of my learnings along the way. And I want to actually premise it with this. The power of yet. Now many of you, who's heard about the concept of growth versus a fixed mindset? Hands around the room? I didn't know about it when I was going through my career, but having learnt about it now, it actually makes a huge amount of sense to me, and I can see that it has actually been important for me. So the idea behind the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset is that a growth mindset says life is a journey of learning where we can grow it and develop our talents. Whereas a fixed mindset effectively says you've got what you were born with, you've got those talents, they're pretty much fixed, and life is a test, therefore avoid looking foolish. The idea about a growth mindset is that it essentially allows us to take risks. And when I look back on my career, the thing that has taken me furthest has been basically wanting to put my hand up for things that look big, challenging and scary, and being prepared to put myself out there. Now, seizing those opportunities, you can put your hand up, but you have to have somebody who's prepared to believe in you. You have to have someone who's prepared to believe in your potential, because usually you haven't got absolutely everything it takes to do that thing. That's why it's scary. So as I think the Minister was saying earlier, you need both a sponsor, somebody who can open up those opportunities for you, and also somebody who can mentor you. So when I think about my career, some of the things that have really taken me on have been things that were scary, those task forces, those projects that looked like if they failed, they could actually, they're quite high profile and they might not take you somewhere. But being given those opportunities has helped me to grow and develop. And some of them, yes, they didn't quite come off the way we planned, but I learnt from them. So that's one thing. People gave me chances, people gave me opportunities. I guess another thing was that, and they were all over the place, I sought to broaden my experience. Another thing in terms of that power of yet is that I think as Heather was saying, it's the way that you think about opportunities. It's whether you say to yourself no, or whether you say not yet. And I've got a particular example of that. The first time that I, as a relatively junior, was a junior senior manager, put it that way, I put myself forward for a couple of general manager roles. And I was unsuccessful for both of them. Now, For one of those roles, the response that came back to me was, "No, Liz, this is not you," for a variety of different reasons. The other general manager role, the person who had chosen not to shortlist me just simply rang me up and said, "Liz, not yet. Not yet. But your time will come, and we're just so pleased that you put your application in, and here's the things that you should be working on." Now, the power of that, the power of somebody saying to me, "Not yet, Liz," was just extraordinary, because it said to me that I could keep pushing. It didn't say no, and it didn't reinforce in me the idea that somehow I'd made myself look foolish because I'd even thought of putting myself forward. So that was an incredibly powerful thing for me. Another really powerful lesson for me was when I had my first deputy secretary role, and my chief executive was Jeff Dangerfield. I was at MED, and I'd moved from the Department of Labour to be both the head of Consumer Affairs and the deputy secretary. And Jeff had seen me earlier in my career when I had been a junior manager, and I'd been leading one of these big whole of government projects. And after I'd been in the role for a while, he took me to one side and he said, "Liz, you know, a number of years ago when I was working at Prime Minister and Cabinet, and you had been basically leading a report back on the task force on Prime Ministerial Task Force on Employment Policy. I can remember sitting in a Cabinet committee where you were addressing essentially the whole of Cabinet. They were all there because it was a Prime Ministerial Task Force. And you were up the front there and you were essentially telling them what you thought should be done and how it should work and providing them with advice. And I saw this young woman up there who was full of confidence, who really was able to address that group and to motivate and influence them." And then he said, "So where's she gone? Where's she gone? I don't see her around the leadership table at the moment." And that really hit me. It really, really hit me. And sort of, as somebody yesterday when I was talking to them about them, I'd lost my mojo. It's gone somewhere. And so I went away and thought about it, and I talked to a mentor that I had at the time. And what I realised was that somehow or other, along the way, I'd allowed myself to become my role and not me. So when I was sitting around that table, I was sitting around that table as Liz MacPherson, Head of Consumer Affairs, largely, the group of things that I was responsible for. And I was contributing from the point of view of, was this something that, from that perspective I should be contributing on? I wasn't contributing as me. I was not bringing the full range of my experience to the table. The things that I'd done in the past, that my experience in labour market policy and economic policy and being a mother and, sort of working out in the community, I was not bringing that full experience to the table. It was a blinding revelation, and it has been incredibly important to me. And it helped me turn that around, and I got my mojo back. So I would say to you, I look around this room and I think to myself, look at the power of these women. If you truly bring everything that you are to what you do, remembering that no one will ever do your role the way that you do it. If you truly bring that to your role, there's no end to what we can achieve together for New Zealand. So that's one thing. The other thing I also discovered was is that when I first got into senior leadership roles, I had this feedback I got on my communication style, which was, Liz, you need more gravitas. Now, nearest I could figure, gravitas seemed to mean that I needed to be male, grey-haired, and wear a grey suit. because essentially what they were telling me was that my style didn't really fit with what they saw from other chief executive types. So I went on a communications course and I said to the person who was taking the course, look, I want to learn to be able to communicate better. I want to be able to change my styles to meet the needs of audiences, but I want to be me. I want to be able to communicate in a way which is truly me, and I don't feel like I'm putting on somebody else. And I did learn through that I could do that, and it was, I guess, for me, part of my journey as well in terms of whether I wanted to be a chief executive or not. I wasn't really prepared to put my name forward for some time because I wanted to be sure that when I did, I would be able to be truly me. I didn't want to have to become something that I wasn't. And I'm obviously in a chief executive role now, and that's because I saw a change in the environment where I felt that I could be recognised for the strengths that came with who I was, and that I wouldn't need to become someone else to be a chief executive and to lead in the New Zealand Public Service. So I can remember one occasion when I was at, I think it was still MED at the time, I gave a presentation, and afterwards one of my colleagues who I love dearly came up to me and said, Liz, that was great, but it needed a little bit more Air Force One. I said, well, I don't think you're going to get Air Force One from me, but you are going to get somebody who speaks from the heart. So the other message I would give to you is everyone needs encouragement. Everyone needs encouragement. And I can speak from experience because I was hesitating about putting my name forward for this role. And there's someone in this room who took me out for a cup of coffee and said to me, Liz, so why aren't you putting your name forward? Are you scared you're going to get it? So everyone needs encouragement. I put my name forward. Everyone needs encouragement. Even potential government statisticians need encouragement. It's that power of yet. It's the ability to actually say, I have huge potential and I can learn and I can put myself in different situations, and even if they don't quite work out the way I thought they were going to, there are things I can take forward from that experience that will help me the next time. So maybe not now, not yet, but absolutely in the future. So that has been incredibly powerful for me. So I'm with the Minister. I hadn't heard about the special place in hell for women who don't encourage other women, but I would agree with her wholeheartedly on that. One of the things I have seen is that we women can be very hard on each other. And why is that? I have seen people climb up the ladder and then pull it up after them. No? We need to be supporting each other. I've come across women who have basically fought every step of the way to get into a role and then turned around and looked at other women and said, suck it up. Now that's not the way that we should be looking at ourselves. Everybody needs encouragement, and we need to find ways to support each other to lead, not just to aspire to leadership roles, but the way we lead within our current roles. So from me, and I'm keeping an eye on time because we are running a little over, that's my story. And it's a story where when I look back from the very beginning, my very first job in the public service, and right the way through until now, opportunities have come my way because other people have believed in my potential. I'm currently Government Statistician. I believe there are other things that I can do. I look around this room and I say to you, believe in your potential. Say to yourself when you're looking for things, or if something doesn't quite work out the first time round, not yet. Don't say no. Don't focus on things that didn't work. Say not yet and move on. Because when I look at this, the skills that must be present in this room, I say, if we really harness them, look out world, look out New Zealand Public Service, we truly can do, as the Statistics New Zealand strategic direction says, we truly can change lives. That's why I'm here, and I'm sure that's why you're here too. So thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. There's some wonderful speakers lined up, and I'm really looking forward to listening to them. Kia ora.
I think the song we might do for Liz relates to not just colours, but what colours might represent in terms of people. And as we go on this bicultural come multicultural journey, Ma is white, Whiro is red, Kakariki is green, Kowhai is yellow, Pamo is black, A, E, I, O, U. Tēnā koe, Liz. Ho mai te pakipaki anō. Okay, I stand between you and Kai Paramanoa. Other... Sorry, one more slide. Let's hear that, Liz.
I don't know if we can do that yet. It's slipped. Can you go back? This is my last slide.
This is so true. There are so many of us that have boards like that, and I stand alongside Liz in that case as being the first Māori woman to lead Ministry for Māori Development, Te Puni Kōkiri, so that's pretty cute.